Oh, an extremely dumb mother and child risk their lives for a good old view of the demon, even though he's actively attacking right near them.
そこへ一人の青年が声を上げた。
国民よ、顔を上げてくれ。我々が必ず姫を魔王城から救い出す。
This guy isn't crying out anything. He's barely raising his voice. His wife would have a hard time hearing him if he was next door saying, "Love? Love? Can you put the kettle on?" Also, let's be real, Attack on Titan Season 1 did this. They aren't hearing him from all that way away, especially taking into account the previously mentioned, not raised voice.
勇者様、しかし魔王軍は強大ですぞ。
Character with their eyes perpetually shut cliché.
遥か彼方、遠く地の果ての魔界へと一人連れ去られたスヤリス姫の苦しみに比べたら。
Exposition though, since they'd all know that she's been abducted to the distant demon realm at the ends of the earth, since she was just abducted to the distant demon realm at the ends of the earth.
苦悩していた。
それもそうだ。
Jug of water in a glass that only appear when the lights are turned on. The keys one of them is carrying when they enter disappear when the scene angle changes, and they're not seen again from a multitude of other angles till after she's brushed them.
我、安眠の材料を得たり。
The idea that none of them caught up to her the whole time she was literally walking around the castle collecting stuff.
魔が住まう我が城で姫は嘆き絶望し助けを待つはずだぞ。
Starting your sentence in the throne room and then finishing it after what must have been a long, silent trip to her cell.
姫が魔王にさらわれて以来、海民国は悲しみに包まれていった。
She's not actually dead though.
魔王城はシーツも質が悪いのか。しかも、私はちょっと寝相が悪い。
Knowing what your sleeping posture is like when you're asleep.
姫、食事よ。あら、今日は起きてるのね。
Asking someone if they're awake when they're awake, brought to you by the country who would ask someone if they're awake when they're the person driving the car and the person asking is a passenger, Japan.
それに、もらった大きすぎるハサミもどうすれば。
Out of all of the scissors that he dropped, saying she can take what she needs, she grabbed this massively large pair and then admits having no idea what to use it for. Why take it if nothing even came to mind?
はい、見張り付きで宝箱に収めてあります。明日ダンジョンへ輸送予定です。
あれは本当に重要だからな。
よし、分解できた。
しかし、あれの輸送は難儀ですよ。
I like this anime so far, it's funny, but I'd be remiss on this channel if I didn't mention that everyone is a little too disorganized in this place. The bears keep some keys to her cells. No one seems to know about that in spite of them going to unlock her 3 times now. No one is able to find her when she's out, in spite of her walking around, even when she point blank goes up to people and walks off. And finally, they want to keep her in one place, and yet never put any guards outside the cell.
お目覚めかな。
Yes, she clearly has. Normally this only happens once per anime and I can't be bothered to do the joke again.
なんて質の悪い。安眠要素ゼロじゃないか。
何してんの？わかんねえよ。何の儀式？
何してんの？わかんねえって。
聞いてこいよ。お前こそ。
Since her pillow and sheet weren't in the scene when she wakes up and she hadn't taken them with her, seemingly everyone watching her just allowed the princess to return to her cell or wherever she left them, grab them, and return, and they just waited around like they're watching a TV.
汚れや傷なんて一つも見逃せねえ。
How is everyone's hearing so great though? So what was the point in the whole building the coffin part of episode 1 if now in episode 2 she's already no longer using it?
魔王城、部屋の機密性が悪すぎる。
But oddly enough, what would solve all of her issues is the continued use of the coffin.
でも、かなり大きな布がないと。こないだシーツに使ったお化け風呂敷よりもずっと大きな。
姫！こないだはよくも俺の子分をやってくれたな。
Oh, incredibly fortuitous that every time she needs something, it suddenly appears in front of her.
何？姫がフェニックスの巣に向かってるだと。強力な回復アイテム。まさか姫、勇者のために。
What? Does he think she's gonna mail them to him? He thinks she's gonna be there at the door when the hero finally arrives in order to heal him should he need it? What? When it happened the first time, it was beyond cute. The second time, it was super cute. The third time, cute. The 14th time, I can't help but notice how often it's being constantly used and repeated. As funny as this was, she flew around like she was in a pinball machine and yet must have slowly come to a stop in the middle while the doors equally slowly opened and then somehow regained enough pinball-like momentum to then fly through the open doors. Because, like she mentioned several times to you, she thought it would also make her sleep. Normally I'd let him get away with that, but she specifically mentioned it 2 or 3 times and he acknowledged it.
でよ、3日も眠ってる夢を見てさ、起きたらめっちゃ腹減ってて、会長茶碗蒸しを100個食べちまったぜ。
He says he dreamt it like he didn't wake up at the same time as everyone else 3 days later, and what? Did not a single person mention how long they'd all been asleep for at the same time?
よし、私の体を触ってほしい。
Stop!
すぐ寝るから私の部屋で触ってほしい。
おや、姫、棺桶ならあげな。
寝室で私の体を触ってほしい。
これは人間の背中。まさかこれは誘われている。
Okay, I ran out of stops, so just stop now, bruh. I held off sinning it 3 times. 3 whole times. Take 1 this time.
押しとらがらった。
He pushes her forwards essentially, and she falls forwards, but then also randomly ends up lying sideways like normal on the bed.
せめてあそこに見えるあの森くらい明るいところで目覚めたい。けど魔王城の城壁の外には出られないしな。
She says as though she's allowed out of her cell, which she isn't, and yet continually leaves anyway, so why bother following that one other rule?
なんかやべえよ、逃げられて喜んでる顔じゃねえ。ビビってんじゃねえよ、人質の姫だぞ。
What has one got to do with the other? He's saying she's not got the look of being happy when she's getting away, and his response is firstly a very odd don't be a wuss, not sure why, and then to say she's a hostage. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. If she's getting away, you'd think she'd be pleased. That's his point, bruh.
まさかあれを持って勇者と交流する気では。
そうなれば魔王城は。
ソ連、必ず姫を連れ戻せ。
They oddly never gave this order before now.
ロケットタートルのそばでは火器厳禁と言っただろう。
ロケットタートル。
For the first and only time of the video, yes!
ロケットタートル！何が起こる？
He says after specifically requesting that the dragon doesn't breathe fire near the turtle because it will cause the turtle to explode, and then they breathe fire anyway and he gets annoyed saying don't do that, and then the turtle blew up.
全身を霊気から守りつつ自由に動ける防具が必要ということか。
Once again, an incredibly fortuitous series of events in which the princess thinks of something that she would ideally need and then it happens to be walking by her.
マジ？次あいつら帰ってくんの？
CGI!
女部隊の旗艦である。
姫に話し相手ができていいかもな。
What a fantastic little racist he is, assuming men aren't people! It's genuinely so clever that they thought about how it would kill your quads to keep your legs apart. So take a one and only sin off for that, and because the anime has got some pretty good jokes in it too, to be fair.
分かれ道か。
よし、右だ。右の道を行く。
魔物の群れが罠か。
Is it a trap when you have multiple choices and then you can also back away from the danger?
勇者が 魔王城へ向かう道を外れて迷子になっている件について。
まだ勝てないレベルの魔物に遭遇してやられまくっているしな。
I suppose a good start would be to stop putting him up against enemies that are too hard for them to fight? Or are they not demon forces? Because the sand dragon that they made him fight was definitely one of theirs, they mentioned it, but now these evil moles aren't? It's also their territory, you'd think they'd be able to just do what they gotta do to make it safe for the heroes, but what do I know? I just write YouTube videos! Whole thing explodes in flames, but the comforter is beyond untouched.
魔物もいないし、今度こそ正しい道のようだな。よし、行こう。
勇者が苦難
Why are you bothering with installing traps when you actually want him to reach you, though?
空から魔王様が。
Even though it's comedy, she had to have a bird friend fly her up there, so how did she get up there with him and no one saw it?
しかし何なんだこのトラップの数々は。
So she managed to get out of her room again somehow after previously blowing the gates off, and has since then stated that she's been receiving 3 meals per day, and yet they never repaired the wide open gate?
ここにしびれ床があるだろう。
Yeah, I mean, how could you not? She's right in front of it and looking at it too.
しかしまさか寝具でもお菓子でも熊でも出てこないとはな。
None of them assumed that perhaps this guy was a little bit better at not giving away 1,000 keys to their prisoner's cell.
私たち行く必要
Because you didn't think that she'd be able to actually escape, and furthermore, that if she did escape, that she'd want to return to her prior kidnappers.
おい、
大丈夫か？ダメだ。君たち
Naruto, run!
その後虫歯一本に実に8時間をかけ
She was freaking out every time the dentist looked at her while her mouth was open, but it was okay with everyone up above looking at her while her mouth was open.
なんで勇者専用のアイテムにただのボロ本が？分かった。このボロ本と交換してやる。
This guy says she's a prisoner and so shouldn't be reading for pleasure, but then gives her another book to read anyway.
欲しい。
なんでここでテレビ見てんだ？
I literally haven't seen a single TV anywhere else, so maybe that's why? At the very least, she doesn't have one in her cell.
でもほら、紐は繋がってましたけど、会話はなかったので。
それじゃ無視の意味がないんですのよ
Not talking to her defeats the purpose of ignoring her because they had a leash on them? Also though, just throwing this out there, they want her to be more of a hostage, yet decided to go down the road of ignoring her before focusing on actually keeping her in a cell.
完全にああなれとは言わないが、少しは奴らを見習って人質らしくしてくれ。
What? Why though? It's not like the Demon Lord is being judged on this at the end of her hostage term or whatever, so I don't quite understand the obsession in merely having her act more hostage-like.
人間体だって？
Somehow, in spite of having an incredible lead on them, with the Demon King mentioning how fast she is, they all managed to catch up to her in an insanely small amount of time.
人間界か。まあでも、俺肌とか青いし留守番だな。
Blue? More like green, isn't it?
そして、いろんなマークがありますね。
そうだな。
君たちも人間ミンチマークとか作れば。
姫は人間の姫なんだよね。
それにそんなことをしても戦いは終わらない。
Yeah, that definitely wouldn't end the conflict. You're making an equally offensive firework towards killing your human enemies. What a weird thing to say.
ちょっと強い方がモテるとか、そういう。それが済んだら脱獄の練習。
Why are they still keeping her in a locked cell with everything that has happened?
お疲れ。しまった。いくら顔が似てるとはいえ、人選を間違った。
Didn't you pick her because she's incredibly popular? And then you also noticed after it was mentioned how you also happen to look similar?
姫って常にこんなことしてるの？いや、8割は寝てるけど。なんだったの今までの！
It stands to reason that that is what she does the other 20% of the time.
で取り入れしたんですの？
いや、まずあれを勇者だと認識していない。
おい勇者をしたぞ。
姫おかしくないか。仮にも自分を救おうとしてる相手に。
Because as you guys literally just stated a minute ago, she doesn't know that he's the hero. She just thinks he's the annoying kid from her childhood, now all grown up.
なんだこのズルズルという音は。
聖騎士だ。
He knows a paladin from the sound of their voice?
なんだモルゲンか。君も参加しろ。
これさっき遭遇したでかいやつの鎧か。
だいたいモルゲン、君は注意力散漫なのだからもっと身を入れて侵入者探しをしないか。
モルゲンというのはこの鎧の持ち主の。
Yeah, you just got that information 1 minute and 5 seconds ago when he said Morgan the first time and you surmised that it was the armor belonging to the big dude.
Nathan Bird, Bird Without a Word, Aidan White, PK Fan, Ali 50, Ryan Anderson, Isael Caldera, Chris Harris, Yong Nashgal, Manolo Saucedo Munoz, Luis Hernandez, Kim Munt, Jason Davies, Yuki Ali, Manuel Morales, Dark Lord Bloody Soul, Blitzcloud, Aura Keeper, Steelers, Kimi O, Sentimento, Jeffa6263, Master Tank, Kevin Nelta, Brendan Krier, Storm 970, Mr. Waffle 64, Kaj Vorzorna, Jordan Samuels, Sean Graves, The Epic Commander, Crimson Shadows, Kyle Farmer, Buzzbomb 3000, Agora Blue.